I was constantly comparing myself to my peers and thinking I needed to be just like them, which in reality, that was the total wrong thing to do. I wanted to share my experiences in hopes that it even helps one person. And for me, if it just helped one person, someone read it and got some sort of inspiration to go and try something new, or took down the whole idea of creating a success journal and logging all the compliments that you get and being able to go back and reference those. If I could reach one person that it helped, for me, that was a success.
Hi, I'm Hannah Bloking.
Hi, I am Allison Maklick, and this is another episode of Imposter Talks from 4 Under 3. Hannah, how are you? How's your week been?
It has been a week. I am so looking forward to this conversation. You have no idea. And definitely have had lots of bouts of imposter syndrome this week, both professionally and also personally. My daughter's starting kindergarten in the next week. And I'll tell you something, it sounds so inconsequential, but like my daughter has transitioned from a baby into a child. And when that happened, I was like, oh, great. Now she's like an actual kid and she can do things like sleepover. So like I invited her best friend over for her first sleepover. And then I realized I have no idea how to host a sleepover. And I'm like, am I terrible? I have no idea what to do. How about you, Allison? How's your week been?
Oh, we haven't entered sleepover yet. I'm nervous. So Noah started kindergarten last week, and it was really intense and emotional. I cried all day. I felt like my baby. So I'm like in that weird kind of space, and then working and all of it. It's just, I think we said that this week we were talking to a company about another workshop, and we were telling her, our champion, it doesn't just go away. It's not, oh, I am cured from imposter syndrome. It pops up in ways you don't even realize. So I'm like you. I'm really excited we're having this conversation today. And with that, we'll get started with our newest guest. So everyone who is listening, we have today Kristy Merriam. And I think I said that right. Dictionary, I remember.
Yeah.
And I'll let you introduce yourself in just a second. But fun fact, so Hannah and I, we post a lot of this to LinkedIn first, like a little teaser, and then it goes to Apple and Spotify and YouTube, all the things. And we have become the imposter gals, right? It's almost like if someone's talking about it, we get tagged or it pops up in our feed. And I saw Kristy's post, and I want to cover that in this episode today. And it was so raw and vulnerable and authentic. And I was like, hell yes, get on the podcast. And we have some mutual people in common, but that's really just using your voice, how it was so inspiring. So that's why we wanted to have you on today. So with that, welcome, Kristy. Please tell everyone who you are and give us a little background.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you, Allison. My name's Kristy Merriam, and I am a senior developer advocate at ServiceNow. It's a brand new role. It just took on August 1st, but I started my tech career back in like call center days back in the early 2000s. Worked in several other help desks and call centers, and eventually found ServiceNow back in 2017. So I've been here for about 7.5 years. It's been amazing.
Woof. Okay. Amazing. And I know that we have that in common, a love
Yes.
for a love and a history with contact centers.
Yes.
But very interested to hear your journey, like contact center to senior developer advocate. We're here to talk about imposter syndrome. That is like a journey. So before we dig into your personal experience and how you've navigated things, maybe just starting off like at a high level, imposter syndrome means something different to everybody we talk to. So like when you hear the term imposter syndrome, what does it mean to you?
Yeah. So, I mean, if I think about just the word imposter and what I think about as an imposter, for me, an imposter is somebody or something intentionally trying to be something else. But if I think about imposter syndrome, it's more of just like a feeling brought on by lack of self-confidence or starting something new that you're unfamiliar with. So for me, yeah, it's just more of feeling like a fraud, questioning, what am I doing here? How did I get here to this point? Obviously, somebody saw something in me, but you're just doubting yourself. I think it's really rooted in just self-doubt in a lot of cases.
So on this journey to this new role, you started August 1st.
Yeah. Yeah.
How have you been combating your own imposter? Because I'm going to guess it's popped up. So tell us about that. What's it been like?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think my first bouts of imposter syndrome really started when I moved to ServiceNow, because I went from being in a role where it was a technical role. So I owned the ServiceNow platform at my previous company and was acted as the product manager, so roadmap and all of that. And then I got wooed into coming into ServiceNow as a solution consultant. And I was very excited about it, got into the role. And this was the first role that really my paycheck depended on how well I could talk to someone about ServiceNow and sell it to someone. And I was on a team surrounded by lots of very strong personalities, but also people who had been solution consultants for years. And I'm brand spanking new to being solution consultant, never been in sales before. So not only was I changing organizations, I was also changing the trajectory of my career and my career path. So it was very daunting. And I found myself questioning, do I really belong in this role? Am I going to be good in this role? And why did you see me as being a good person for this role? Because I was constantly comparing myself to my peers and thinking I needed to be just like them, which in reality, that was the total wrong thing to do. I got a lot more comfortable in the role over a few years and admittedly probably didn't start really overcoming imposter syndrome until early last year, I would say, or starting to make some steps toward it when I was able to do something that was fairly uncomfortable, but it put me just enough outside of my comfort zone to give me some additional confidence when I actually got out there and did the thing and was actually really good at it, I think. So that's how I got through it when I initially came to ServiceNow. But yeah, moving into a new role, a whole new organization, some of those feelings are starting to crop back up for sure in the developer advocate role because it's a little different than being a solution consultant, as you could imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think thematically, it's something that we hear a lot, especially because Allison and I also have solution consulting backgrounds.
Mhm.
So a lot of times, solution consultants have a ton of different backgrounds. Certainly can see coming new to a team, but having been on the customer side, it is a whole different world and like a whole different model. But like I would say that experience as a customer is so valuable and a lot of solutions consultants don't have that experience. So I'm curious just like when maybe was there a moment where you were like, "Oh my gosh, like this is a superpower that I have," instead of feeling like you needed to be like everybody else who might have had a lot of sales consulting experience?
It took me an embarrassing long time to figure that out, that it wasn't about being like everybody else, but it was bringing my own unique experiences to the role. And that's what made me a good solution consultant. That customer background, the ability to sit down with the customer and be able to instantly gain that street cred with them because I've been in their shoes. I knew I had that power, but I was still like comparing and this is silly, like comparing my PowerPoint skills to a peer of mine who was just an amazing person at PowerPoint. That was just a skill he had and I didn't have it. And I thought that one little thing made me less of a solution consultant because I wasn't as good as him at just PowerPoint skills. So it took me a while to figure that out, that it was all about my personal experiences, not necessarily about how I stacked up to my peers because they brought their own experiences and their own strengths to the table.
100%. It's so funny. It's like all the things you don't learn in school and you don't learn in college. I wish there was someone to tell you. It's like you'd hear it on Lisa Frank posters. Be yourself. You're your own superpower. Things like
Yeah.
that. But it's like just someone almost to shake you in your earlier career to be like, we don't want you like someone else. We want you to be you. And that's
Yes.
because of that. That's why you're going to shine. And
Yes.
it just takes some people a really long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Me,
And
a
it's
really
so
long time.
hard. Yeah. And it's
Nice.
so hard sometimes just to be yourself in a world full of, I tend to be more of an introvert, more of a listener than a talker a lot of times. And it's hard sometimes to be yourself when you're surrounded by people who are talkers and you're just absorbing things. And it's hard to find your space in that role. So I struggle with that for a bit.
On that note, tell us what motivated you to post on LinkedIn and be vulnerable. And I remember it even said it took me a while to even press send on this. Talk
Yeah.
to us about that because that was a really big moment of bravery. We'll put the link in there when we push the episode
Yeah,
out so
sure.
everyone can reference it. But
Yeah.
talk to us about that.
Yeah, I think I had just started to recognize that I was starting to make my progress on my own to get a little bit past and silence that negative inner critic I think that we all have. But I realized I was starting to make some progress and I knew others struggled with it. I knew there was other people out there, not just women in technology. It happens to all of us, I think. And I thought I wanted to share my experiences in hopes that it even helps one person. And for me, if it just helped one person, someone read it and got some sort of inspiration to go and try something new or took down the whole idea of creating a success journal and logging all the compliments that you get and being able to go back and reference those. If I could reach one person that it helped, for me, that was a success. So that's what inspired me to actually push the publish button and actually publish that article and get it out there.
I
Yeah.
love that so much. And success journal, like I feel like that is also a theme of something that a lot of people find really helpful. And I'm the same way. And I think it's because my love language, like number one at the top is words of affirmation.
Yeah.
And I found a lot of people in this field,
Yes.
that's their top love language. And it makes sense. Like you're in this
Mhm.
role where you're talking to people all the time. And when you're presenting a solution, you want them to love it. You want them to
Yeah.
tell you this is gonna solve my challenges. This is exactly what I've been waiting
Yes.
for. I think it just like feeds into that. So it's like very natural. But that being said, our audience, a lot of sales consultants actually, just because of the background that we've been in, our work with pre-sales collective,
Mhm.
but because there's so many things you do as a sales consultant, the role, so many backgrounds. Like if there's somebody sitting there right now today being like, what's the one piece of advice you could tell them that could help them battle their inner imposter today? Like actionable things they can take.
Oof, just one. Oh gosh. Oh,
It can be up to 3.
okay. I mentioned the success journal. Like I realized I was really bad at taking compliments. And so I learned that actually from another article that I read about starting to write it down. Who gave it to you? What did you do to get it? And what did they say specifically? So you can always have that to go back to. But also being able to accept that compliment is big too. Cause I feel like a lot of people, for me at least, when somebody gave me a compliment, I almost immediately just deflected it. Oh, you're just saying that because you feel bad for me because I screwed up at one part of this demo that I did. When in reality, I probably did pretty good. And they're telling me that I did well because they saw me do it and that was their perception of me. So that's one thing I would say, accept the compliments that people are giving you. Step outside of your comfort zone. Don't make it something unnatural. For me, it was getting on stage in front of 6,000 people. It was
That's a big deal.
uncomfortable. Was it sales kickoff at ServiceNow?
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, and it wasn't necessarily something that was unnatural because I got on stage and talked about a topic that I was like super comfortable with doing because it's what I did in my everyday job. But getting in front of the stage in front of 6,000 of my peers, uncomfortable. But I discovered a lot about myself by doing that. And
Yeah.
one of the other big things I would say, and I'll stop with this one, is find people that you can talk to. I was very fortunate in being on a team of people. A couple people specifically, you know who you are if you're watching this, that I felt very comfortable in confiding in. I would talk to them all the time about how I was feeling a little self unconfident about a certain demo or something that I was signed up to do or whatever the case may be. And they were always there for encouragement, always there talking me off the ledge when I was freaking out about something or really that imposter syndrome was really starting to kick in. So find your people. I find that to be very important as well.
Oh, see, you over-delivered. You undercommitted and you over-delivered. Those were 3 amazing takeaways. And I would say I love all of those things, but one thing that just really stuck out to me in the first one that you listed, you
Mhm.
said, "Write it down," and it wasn't just what it was and who but you said, "How did I get that compliment?"
Mhm.
That is so
Yeah.
powerful. Yeah, we don't just write it down. It's no, if I can look back and be like, "No, I did it. I did all these things. I've
Yes.
earned that compliment." I
It's
love that so
huge.
much.
It's
Yeah.
huge. Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes a
And
huge difference. It sounds silly, but it makes such a big difference.
no, it doesn't at all. I love it. I'm gonna add that to my way I track my compliments that I
There you
get.
go. Good.
One
Yeah.
other thing too that I made me think on your second point of like being able to take a compliment. I had a mentor, and she'll know who she is if she's watching too. And she would make us, if someone said something, a compliment, she would literally make us practice and say, thank you.
Yeah.
That's
And then
right.
just not say
Stop.
anything. Because I think, and I don't know if it's women, it's just something and it's, oh, blah, 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 blah. And she was
Mhm.
like, absolutely not.
Mhm.
We're done with that. And I was so young in my career and she would make us practice in a room together. She would
That's
say,
awesome.
and you just have to say, thank you. And
Yeah.
that's it.
And that's it. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. One
And
of the, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
no, I was just going to say, it's so crazy. Why do we want to not accept the compliment? I get it.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. And you remind me of something, a piece of advice I got when I was actually interviewing for the solution consulting role. I was already really good friends with a couple of the solution consultants in Nashville, and they were helping me and coaching me. And they were familiar with the interview process. And they told me, like, sometimes yes is a perfectly acceptable answer. You don't have to say yes and go into a whole big spiel. Just say yes and leave it at that. You don't
And
have to go further
practice.
than that. Yes. So
I love it. Kristy, this has been so fun. We love talking about this to all different people, all different walks of life. Thank you for being vulnerable and sharing. Hannah, anything else as we wrap up?
No, I am so excited about this conversation, and from one call center enthusiast to another. It's great to have you. Love learning about your journey.
Thanks for having me. It's been great being here. I appreciate the invite. Happy to come
Awesome.
back anytime.
Oh,
Okay.
wonderful. Yeah.
Next year,
Yeah.
August 1st, 2025.
There we
How's
go.
it
After
going?
you've been
There we go.
enrolled, you can come back and tell us what your first year's been like.
Excellent. Happy to do it.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Imposter Talks.
Subscribe and review our podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And please follow us on LinkedIn and YouTube at 4under3.
And we want to hear your imposter story. If you're interested in being a guest, please email us at info@4under3.io. Thanks so much.